You want me to go a little bit and then y'all can take over? Obviously, it's exciting to be in this position. I'm proud of our players, our coaching staff, and I appreciate the fans. And they're here for this today, and you feel an obligation in this role to have these events at home. And it's not easy to do, and there's one of two ways you're going to do it. You're going to win your conference tournament, you're in. That doesn't mean you're hosting. Or you can come out of the gates and perform well from day one and get into the ACC and have a competitive ACC season and hope you've done enough to put yourself in this position. And clearly, I feel like our guys earned this, and they're walking right here. I'm proud of how they performed from start to finish. And we had a chance along the way to maybe do a little bit more and position ourselves better. But we are where we are. And there are three really good teams coming in here. And when I say really good teams, these are extremely talented teams. Different styles of play. I haven't dug that deeply in it, but we were on the front end of the show, so you know a little bit about who's coming as you have some time. This is not going to be easy, but I'm proud of the position we're in. I'm proud of the fact that our fans get to enjoy this type of baseball in Howser Stadium, and that's one of the advantages is you have the animals and our fans on our side.
How much of the benefit do you think your team has with your approach about there's no postseason switch you guys flip? You talk about game one, you got to do the same with that consistency.
Well, I hope that it helps, and you try to coach and manage the program that way to be in this position because of how you perform on day one and weekend one. And then I think our midweek stuff, I'm not into all the RPI and all of that, but our midweek string is very, very difficult. So you have to approach the Tuesday or Wednesday games with the same mindset you have to approach a Friday night ACC game or the opening game of the regional. It's tough, but I hope that approach allows them to focus on the task at hand, one pitch at a time, execute, and hopefully the dust settles in your favor if you play that way.
You mentioned midweeks. You played in a midweek earlier this year. You even said it after that. It's a team you can see. Having that preparation already, how big is it for you guys going into Friday?
You know, it does help. And the midweek games are a little bit different. You know, we're not seeing their weekend arms, nor are they seeing ours. So there's a little bit of an unknown that we have to dive into. You know, and I think the advantage of them coming here to play does help them. I don't think they're going to be shocked. They're an older team. They do a really good job of constructing their roster. And these are winning teams that are in here. And that habit and that repetitive ability to come out on top, like all of the teams in this tournament have shown it, including them. They're older. You know, I think they have a lot of transfers and junior college players, which naturally ages that roster. They're very talented, so good, and they've been here. And, you know, we'll re-engage with their metrics. I don't remember a whole lot about that game, quite frankly, at this moment, but we'll have the information, the data, that will help. And I think it does help them that they have been here before.
We saw how you approached the pitching, kind of lining up the pitching last year. Is that kind of how you always do it? Is it different year to year? Do you have an idea going in how you're going to line that up?
Well, all I'll tell you is that we wanted to come out of the ACC tournament in a position to have options, and we didn't want to overdo anybody so that we had our starting pitchers in line to use how we decided to use them. And Mike and I have not decided what that is. These are all really good teams, and you have to think through your goal of winning the regional, you know, and what is the best way to win. Clearly game one helps you get to the championship, but you want to make sure you're in a position to win the first game that you play. I mean, that's huge. So we're not ready to get to who's pitching yet. I am happy that we do have all of our options on the table to start whoever we decide is the best fit for game one.
Do those options include, like, reimagining the way you would use a guy like Joey or Wes in terms of their role?
Yeah, I mean, I think the three starters are the three starters as we see it right now. Now, how we decide to rotate that, I don't know. I don't intend to get too cute. You know, at some point, if your back's against the wall and you're fighting to survive, then you get as cute as you can get to try to stay in the thing. But right now, entering the tournament, we do have all of our options on the table. Nobody did too much by design last weekend.
You talked a little on Saturday in the press conference about Joey wanting to give him a lighter load, I guess. What went into that? And it seemed like his stuff was up. Did that you feel justified in doing that from what you saw from him in the bullpen?
I do. He had battled some things throughout his career and hadn't gotten to this inning total. And we felt like watching the last couple weeks, he almost needed a breather. And I know he threw 50 pitches maybe, so it wasn't as though that he did not step on the mound. But getting a breather from the start and maybe just a different feeling of I'm going in the game in the 5th inning or 6th inning, whatever it was, to try to snuff this out and hold us and give us a chance to win. That turned into a 3-inning game, and we didn't execute enough to win a 3-inning game. But I thought he did a good job, and that was encouraging. I thought the fastball was a little more crisp. I actually thought the changeup was better. The slider was good. I thought it was as good as I've seen him in a short stint. Now, eventually, we got to string that out and lengthen the stuff over a longer period, which I hope a shorter workload this weekend allows for looking ahead.
I know you guys are hoping to get a top 8 seed going into this, but the fact that the RPA got dropped the last week or two, but to still get a 9, what do you think that says about what you guys are? Because I think the RPA are
This is a talented team, and I think everybody recognizes that. We had some challenging moments throughout the season, and you look at this is why I talk about each game individually, one game at a time, because you look back at a couple of these games, it's probably the difference in being 8 or 9, or 7 or 9, or 6 or 9. So I wish we could have been a little bit more consistent, but overall, you're still happy with the result. Virginia not being able to play that series, and that was a terrible weekend for everybody. And it took games from Virginia, and it should have. I mean, that's just part of what we had to deal with to get through that tragedy. There are games along the way that we let get by us that we needed to finish off and win, and we didn't. So I think there's some ownership in that, and we'll have to be responsible for it and try to learn from some of those things, even looking back at the end of the game Saturday.
You've seen...
Not to get too far ahead, but having gone on the road and won super regionals, and you've been through that side of it too, you're not worried so much about it's got to be this way, or knowing what you're at.
Well, I've been to some really tough places. I feel the obligation to the fans. That's why I want it. That's why I want it. I don't mind taking the group on the road. There is some simplicity to being on the road. I know that sounds crazy, but you're a little bit more compartmentalized in what you're doing when you're in the hotel and you have your team meeting space, and it's a little bit more in a bubble than when you're here. The obligation to have these games in Howser Stadium for the people that are sitting around the corner that want this more than anything. Our players, of course, but the fans and the animals, I do feel that desire and obligation to have these things here. And I know this round will be phenomenal here, but my heart wants it for the next round too, and for the guys, but also for the people that are in that stadium every single pitch of our entire season, pulling for us.
You've seen them a lot recently. Are you surprised UNC's not a top 4 and that it's all SEC teams in the top 4?
I think UNC is one of the top 4 teams. I do. I think their pitching is really good. Their use of the secondary pitches I thought was phenomenal, and offensively they have a timeliness about them. And when you look at the statistics, sometimes that's not reflected, but when you play them 4 times in that little flurry that we played them, you do sense that any chink in the armor that you provide them, they took advantage. And I do think they're a top 4 team. Now, to say, I'm not on the committee this year, so it's the first time in a long time I haven't had to dive in and assess this thing. deeper, but playing them, I felt like they definitely were. And I've seen those teams before, and I've been one of those teams before, and I thought they were in that bucket.
Coach, and looking at what they've done since then, and I guess before then, in terms of scouting that out.
I don't think so. I mean, I think there's enough to go back and look at the last month and go with it.
Do you know anything about Northeastern? Is it one of the hottest teams in the country?
Well, have they won 27 games in a row? Is that right? 17 shutouts. Is that right? They've stolen 200 bases. So that's what's coming in here. And Mississippi State is talented and dynamic. And Bethune-Cookman they just win. They just keep winning. They win. They're tough. Anytime we've ever had them, it's felt challenging, difficult. So, like, our hands are full. And we're sitting here talking about the NCAA Regional. So there's probably a lot of coaches having the same conversation, but I feel like the 2 years I've been here, I'm taking the RPI out of the equation because I don't know that we've nailed down the metrics in college baseball that define the strength of the teams. And I've been responsible for it, and I've tried, and it's hard. So, they try to even out what the overall group of 4 RPI looks like. And sometimes I still am not sure it's reflective, but that's what we have as an industry to go on right now. These teams are absolutely good coming in here. They're strong.
I mean, overall, do you like the regional? Do you think it's fair? I mean, speaking of that, do you like where you guys are at, what you have coming here?
These are tough teams.
Yeah.
I mean, they're tough. Number one, you're thrilled that you have this at home, and that there's going to be a really good 2 seed in here. There's going to be a tough 3 seed, and in our region, our 4 seed last year, if I'm not mistaken, had 40 wins coming in Stetson. So I've seen this song and dance. I think ours is tough. I do think it's tough. Do I think it's fair? It's probably fair. I mean, this is the NCAA tournament. These are what you would consider the best 64 teams, give or take. I know there's always some fluidity to that, but you know what you're getting yourself into, and we're right in the thick of it.
Time for one more.